or chirping birds or winds, or you see yourself outside of you. That is moment of enlightenment. You don't belong to this body and mind.
We have all the major religions in the world share their near-death experiences with it at some point or another, including atheists, including people with no religion. It's true, even atheists, even people who absolutely profess no belief in God whatsoever can have near-death experiences. And when atheists have near-death experiences, they're just like the near-death experiences of everybody else. They're positive, blissful, have the same sequence of elements. Of course, for atheists, after they have this type of near-death experience, it's almost impossible for them to continue to be atheists. Time and time again, we've had people that will say, hey, I was an atheist, I had this near-death experience, and wow, I had to change my beliefs. Now I understand there is a higher power, I understand there is a God, I understand there's an afterlife, I understand there's much, much more to my consciousness than I ever realized, and it's almost impossible for someone to continue to cling to those atheist beliefs after they've had such a profound experience as a near-death experience.
And I was sitting in my old house in Redondo Beach on the couch, just sort of by myself, not doing much of anything, just sort of thinking. And I looked up towards our stairs, and I saw, it was the most kind of amazing thing I'd ever seen. It would be as if there was a dimensional warp or something open. There was like a sparkling. And then out of that sparkling appeared my father. But he was in his absolute prime. He passed away when he was 79. In this vision, he was maybe 35 to 38, something like that, and smiling and grinning. And I could see, I sort of went with the experience because I was so shocked that I saw him. I could see through him, and yet it was there. So it was obviously an apparition of some sort. I mean, it was a spirit, yet he was very real, and I could certainly make out that it was him, and had the whole, his whole body actually appeared. And as he kind of floated down the stairs towards me, I'm in shock, and I go, Dad? And he goes, you were right, you big stinker. And I laughed, and what that was in relationship to is over the years we'd had an ongoing debate about life after death, and my own experience was, and my belief was, that there is more to life and that the spirit certainly survives the shell of the body. And he was very agnostic at best, if not an atheist, and said, nah, I don't believe any of it, when you're dead, you're dead. And he comes over and he basically sits down at the other end of the couch, and I'm going with this, not believing that it's actually happening, and yet it's happening. And we then, in the next half hour or so, time kind of stopped. I don't really know how long it was, but it seemed like, not enough time, and yet I was able to tell him all of my hurts and things that we didn't experience and how come you did certain things, and he was able to tell me, that he was sorry and how much he had loved me, and it was the kind of intimacy and exchange, I might get tears in my eyes again, where he opened in a way that he could never do when we were alive. We never had this kind of an experience. And right at the key moment where I really felt a sense of love and companionship with him that I'd never felt, he started to fade away. He started to sort of move up into the air. And I go, Dad, and I was crying. I said, Dad, don't go, don't go. And he continued to move up, and I'm watching him go up, and that same kind of a sparkling thing happened like I saw at the top of the stairs originally. And as he was kind of fading away and moving towards the ceiling, he said, Michael, remember, I'm only a thought away. I'm only a thought away. And then the last one sort of faded out. He goes, I'm only a thought away. And he went out through the ceiling, and then the sparkling stopped.
And here we are as a biological system, relatively tiny, on a relatively tiny planet, in a relatively tiny solar system, in a relatively tiny galaxy, compared to the scope of the universe that we can see through telescopes. And yet, this mind that exists in our individual consciousnesses, in each and every one of us, this mind has the capability to envision things as tiny as superstrings and go from the micro, up through atoms and molecules and cells and organs and people and planets and solar systems and universes. And literally we could imagine ourselves holding ourselves, envisioning the consciousness of everything. And the conclusion I come to is that our minds are bigger than the entire universe. Our minds, our consciousness has the capability to go from the small to the all. And that capability exists in every one of us. The question is, will we tap into it? Will we develop the skills to be able to go from the micro to the macro? Will we develop the skills to be able to integrate all this information? And that's where the developing the tools of consciousness becomes part of our great challenge.
And he had been saving them for, well, he had met Kirpal Singh in India 25 years earlier when Kirpal Singh gave these to him. So apparently this food is blessed, and it holds some example of, there's a spiritual energy put into this food, or any article, I believe, and they call it Parshad. So the idea is if you eat this stuff, you'll get a spiritual experience that somewhat, I don't even know the intention. I guess the intention is to encourage you to believe that there's a spiritual dimension and this is some benefit to you. So he offers me these grains, this 1 grain of rice that he's been saving for 25 years. And we're sitting in his kitchen in Santa Cruz, California. And it was rather instantaneous. He and I were both seated at the same table, and it seemed as no, it didn't seem. My consciousness moved beyond my body, and it went beyond the kitchen we were in, and it went beyond the house we were in, and it was very strange because this part of me that I identify as myself, like right here in this chair, literally seemed to be go beyond this, like this vase over here. Like I really felt like I was that vase. Here's my arm, that's definitely me, but now it was like that vase was me too. And then beyond that, and I was becoming the walls in the building, and then I was becoming the buildings beyond the building, and it was really frightening. It was very frightening, and it kept going, and it went through the whole city, and I kind of had the idea of what was in the city. This sounds insane. But anyway, it went beyond the city, it went beyond the world, and then I felt as though I was going into space, and my consciousness was expanding through space. Now this sounds crazy, of course, but nevertheless, I got the idea of inhabited worlds in space, what they were like, and this idea of the volume and vastness of space that I'd never been able to comprehend before this time. And it was absolutely terrifying. And it just kept going. So this kept happening. We were expanding out into space for, I guess, maybe 40 minutes. And we're clutched onto the corner of the kitchen table. We're seated at the table, and our arms are wrapped around this table, holding on for dear life. I don't know what that means, and tears are dripping from our eyes to the table, both he and I. And I'm saying, "Are you experiencing the same thing?" He's over there nodding. He can't really speak. And we are just going, please, we can't take it anymore. Please turn this off. And we're believing Kirpal Singh is a real entity. You got the idea. Not the idea. It was clear that Kirpal Singh was responsible for this. It was though he was an entity who was right there taking you on this journey. And you couldn't see him. There was just, the presence of him was very real. And so anyway, essentially we were just begging for him to turn it off. We thought we were going to die. That was the idea. It's just you can't survive this kind of experience without some trouble.
Okay, so I think we need to preface that we were going through a transformational change at that point, and we had started seeing flashes of light. The experience that I had in my living room where I was reading the magazine, and we had a two-way fireplace. I was in one living room, and the fireplace also was two-way into the other living room. All the lights were off in the house except my reading lamp, and it was late at night, and I was flipping through the magazine, and through this time I had was asking to see the angels. I always had a lot of faith and prayer and was doing healings, but I wanted to see them. And so one evening I was flipping through, just thinking about the kids and what I was going to get them, and then I just felt this presence. And I slowly looked over to my shoulder through the fireplace, and this amazing flash of blue-white light, like lightning bolts, or like about 50 light bulbs went off in the other living room and just flashed through the entire house. And from that point on, the kids have started seeing the flashes of light. And then we moved to Scottsdale, and that's when they were experiencing the balls of light, and we started having more visions of angels. So what color was the ball of light?
Mostly white with a splash of gold. But what's really strange about it is that if I would have something blocking my view, I'd usually get really irritated, but it was more calming than ever.
What would get irritated?
Like, I'd be watching TV, then Alex would go in front of the TV, and I'd sort of get mad, but it would sort of be, see, I'd look at maybe a chair or something, and the light would be in front of it, and I couldn't really see it, but it wouldn't bother me. It was calming.
Oh, so it irritated you if something got in front of the ball.
No.
The ball got
No, he's saying normally if Alex got in front of the TV, that would irritate him, but the balls of white didn't irritate you.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
calm. It made.
So they were very calming.
They were very centering.
They had a
Very
presence.
centering, he said.
Yeah.
You felt a presence with these balls of white.
Oh yes.
How big were they? Describe with your hands.
Like that.
Wow.
That's big.
It's pretty big.
And they were gold and white light.
Yeah.
And do you believe other people could see these, or do you think you're seeing into the invisible where other people don't see?
I don't know. I mean, I know there are people more spiritual than me, like the monks, and maybe they see them, or I don't really know. I mean, I'm pretty sure that I'm seeing something invisible to the most human.
So, Alexander, why don't you tell about the bubbles of light that both you and Adam see, but you would see the bubbles all the time. She would always go to bed and say, I see the bubbles around me.
Wherever I look, and if I close my eyes and open them, I'll see like a bubble or a zigzag of different colors, red, blue, the rainbow colors, and if it's really dark, I'll see a ton of little bubbles like that big, and they'll be all over the place just floating around.
Wow! I'm really blown away. I want to see those bubbles. Actually, only one time in my life I saw bubbles, and that's when I was hypothermic.